let's take a time out now and talk about the zoom tool. So the zoom tool, it lives over here. Look what happens there, by the way. I'll just mention it right now. There's a tooltip for every tool that's over here. And this is the zoom tool, so I'll click on this. And one of the other things that I will always do in class, I may not mention it, but I will do it, and that is I will turn off this guy over here. It's called Scrubby Zoom. And I will demonstrate how evil and wrong Scrubby Zoom is later. For now, let's just talk about what happens here. And what we're really seeing here is the zoom tool can move in and out of your image. Now, there's many ways of zooming in and out. Okay, let's point out first of all a couple of things, and that is, what's the zoom value? Okay, and right now, if you look at the tab over here for this file, it's currently set at 25%. Okay, that number also exists down here on the left. Sorry, the dot came up there. The 25% is down here at the lower left-hand corner as well. So there's a couple of places you can find that information out. It's not always vital, but at least you should know where it is. Okay. Now, let's talk about the zoom tool. Now, I've got it selected here, and there's several ways of using the zoom tool. Now, most people who first start with Photoshop, they start doing this. They'll say they wanted to go look in on this girl's face, so they'll click, and it zooms in, and they zoom again, and they click again, and zoom again, click again. Okay, and for a lot of people that works great. It's not the most time-efficient way of doing it, but it does work. So we can start to see, down to the pixel size. And look what's happening right now. We are at maximum zoom value. How do I know? Because any picture, the maximum zoom we can do in Photoshop is 3200%. So we've zoomed in 32 times from our original. Actually, even we probably did a couple more steps, but because we started out at 25% anyway. And it also says 32% down there, of course. Okay, now here's a way to zoom out. I will hold down the Option key on the Mac or the Alt key on Windows. You'll notice that my cursor with the magnifying glass there has turned into a minus sign. So now I can click out, click out, click out, click out. And of course my number value is going down. And we're zooming out, zooming out. Okay, actually it won't go any farther than that. So the minimum value is 0.167%, which is tiny and not very useful. I mean, why would you possibly do this? It's ridiculous. Okay, so not great here. Let me show you the better way of doing things. Okay, now I'll do this. I'll click a few times positively so it gets us back to our normal size. Okay, that's all right. Now, I'm going to show you one of the power methods I use for zooming in and zooming out. Okay, and that is, let's say that I want to zoom in directly to her face. Okay, very simple. I'm going to click and drag, and it's going to create a little selection mark around her face, like this. See those? And then I'm going to let go. Boom, zooms right in. That's the fast way of doing it. Now, if I hit the minus key and I click and drag, it doesn't quite work the same, but it kind of does. I really don't do this. Okay, I've got a better way of doing this. So let me zoom in again. I'm going to zoom into her nose this time. Something really tiny. Okay, there's a keyboard shortcut that zooms us out. Ready? Okay, and that is Command 0. Command 0. I'm holding down the key so you can write this down for the Mac. It's Command 0 for the Mac. It is Control 0 for Windows. And what it's called, it's actually called this guy right over here, Fit to Screen. Okay, I use this all the time. I'm surprised the keys on my computer are still working because I use this so frequently. Okay, so I'll zoom in again. Command 0 again. That's my way of doing it. Works great. You might have also seen in the View menu that we've got a couple of ways to zoom in and out, and that these are keyboard shortcuts, Command plus and Command minus. If you look down at your keyboard, you'll see that Command minus, like this, it works. And really, it's kind of a misnomer that we call it Command plus, or that we use the plus sign. It's really the equal sign, but since the plus sign is on the same key as the equal sign, it winds up being considered as Command plus. Okay, obviously, Windows side will be Control plus. So, or I'm sorry, Control equal means Control plus. Hopefully that's pretty clear. Okay, but we're not done yet. There's still more in zooming. Can you believe it? So the next thing is, I've got a very special way of zooming in. Okay, now to demonstrate the greatness of my particular plan here, I'm just going to actually kind of make a mess. I'm going to go use my brush tool. Now it doesn't matter that we haven't really played with the brush tool yet. We'll get to it a little bit later. But let's say that I've made a mess here, and maybe I want to paint right over her face, but I don't want to leave the brush tool. Okay, there is a really great keyboard shortcut to help us zoom in to a particular thing. So keep your eye on my brush over here. What I'm going to do is hold down the keyboard shortcut, which is spacebar Command. Okay, on Windows it would be spacebar Control. Look what happened to my cursor. It's no longer just that circle brush, it's now the magnifying glass again. So as long as I hold these two keys down, Command space, or, well, I should say it backwards, spacebar Command or spacebar Control on the Windows. Okay, so now as long as I'm holding these keys down, if I do that click drag thing I did earlier, boom, it zooms right in. Then when I let go of the keys, it takes me right back to the brush tool and I can continue whatever I was doing earlier. Okay, so please rewind this and review just this last section, because this is a very power method of zooming in and zooming out. I mean, Command 0, that's pretty easy. But the spacebar Command trick is a very power method because it allows me to work in one tool, temporarily use the zoom tool, and then go back to whatever tool I was doing. This is called working on the fly. Okay, so get to know those particular methods. Now I'm going to undo my little mess here. We'll talk about undo in another movie. Okay, now that was the power zooming, but we've got one more thing to play with, and that is, well, I must zoom in first. So I'll zoom in. And let's say that, I want to see the top of the frame. Well, I can use this tool over here. This is the hand tool. Now, I believe it used to be called the scroll tool because it helps you scroll around. There are a few ways of scrolling around. Even if I didn't have that tool, let's say I was still in the brush tool, I could still scroll around using one of the scroll sliders here at the side or on the bottom. But I prefer using this hand tool. But I don't like clicking on this tool over here. In fact, I don't even like clicking on the zoom tool either. I prefer my keyboard shortcut. Same thing for the scroll tool. So I can scroll around if I hold down just the space bar. It turns my cursor into a hand, and I can drag this around and go to where I want to go. Very handy. In the interest of being complete, I want to show you one other thing, and it's called the navigator. Now, a navigator typically isn't on the screen. You have to go into the window menu and then go to navigator. And it comes up with this screen over here. Now we have another zoom value over here, which is 200%, which of course agrees with the tab at the top and the lower left. That's fine. What's kind of neat is this little red box that's on the screen. I can click and drag it and move it around, and that will move the screen as well. It moves the scroll bars. And we've also got a slide factor here, so if I want to zoom in, I can drag it to the right, and if I want to zoom out, I can drag it to the left. Feasibly also, you could just put a number in here. Let's say that I want to have it as 300%. Just type it in and then hit the return key or enter key, and we're all zoomed in. Here's the problem. I personally don't find the navigator all that useful. I get a lot more mileage out of using our special keyboard shortcuts for zooming in and scrolling around. But this is all about zooming and scrolling.